final round is a free-for-all, a fact on whatever topic you like. Let's kick off with Max.
For eagle-eared listeners, there will be a consistency in my free-for-all topics, but my topic today in the free-for-all is Christianity ruined Viking justice, surprising no one. From the start of the Viking Age, 800 AD onwards, justice was relatively enlightened. There was a standard court system, a law speaker or judge, a 12-plus person jury, depending on the severity of the crime. Evidence was heard and the jury decided.
Sorry, Max. Do you mean 12 people or people who are 12 or older?
12-plus people, as per a standard jury. Thanks for destroying my flow.
I had to jump in.
Age limit on the Viking Council. I don't think he did it.
He did, because he's a nasty poo head.
I don't like him.
Documentation from Iceland from the period is very thorough, and justice appears to have been done. Seriously, if you read this, they count bodily injuries against death on one side or the other of an ambush. It's quite enlightened. From the 12th century AD onwards, Christianity became the prevailing religion in Scandinavia. Christianity brought with it the trial by fire method of justice. Suspects either A, picked up a piece of iron from boiling water and walked 9 paces, or B, walked 9 paces over hot coals, depending on which extremity you least required, presumably. After 1 week, just 1 week, the suspect's wounds would be inspected. If no infection was present and healing had begun, they were declared innocent. If infection was present, the suspect was banished and sent to limp the wilderness until wolves, or likely the person they'd attempted to rip off or stab, caught up with them and did them in. There we go.
That's pretty cool.
It went from an entirely enlightened court system, which is mirrored in almost every civilised society today, to pick up something hot, and if you can hold it for 9 paces and you don't get an infection in Dark Ages time, then you're innocent. Because divine favour.
But that's a bit like the whole Scottish one of if you murdered someone, the way they trialled you was within 3 days they would get said murderer to touch the corpse, and if the corpse bled, that meant that they were guilty. If the corpse did not bleed, it meant that they were innocent.
Standard. We still do that today.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's a logical way of doing it. I mean, to be fair, they probably would have had a whole lot more in the Christian ethos. A whole lot more people would like surviving that if they just invented Savlon.
Antibiotic.
Yeah, or something along those lines.
Stab. Take a quick pill.
Yeah, throw some pills down.
Yeah, that'll do it.
No infection for me.
Although another thing that they did, have you heard about when they were in a battle and if you got a gut wound, how they decided whether it was worth trying to save your life and fetching for a doctor and putting resources into it, or just going, nah, lost cause?
They reached inside and pulled, and if they got more than 5 arm lengths of small intestine, they didn't bother?
No.
Did bother? I don't know.
They would, if necessarily, force feed a mixture of onions, garlic and herbs to the person that had been wounded to the gut, and then after 5 minutes smell the wound, and if they could smell the garlic or the herbs, etc., it had pierced the intestines, and they went, yeah, nothing we can do here.
There's no point.
That's quite literally...
I'd love to see that on House.
That's quite literally adding insult to injury at that point.
Let's get the man.
So you're going to die and you've got bad breath.
You've got terrible breath. You've got Viking breath.
Tell my wife I loved her. Don't think so.
No. He whispered it and I couldn't get close enough to hear what it was.
Something about marrying me.
I will.
You move quick. He moves quick on the battlefield.
These are the Dark Ages. You haven't got a lingus.
Or the Peace, as we call it.
Or the Peace. We don't. Fencers do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you do.
Badass.
You sound like you need like a motivational T-shirt about being a fencer.
You don't really need to motivate.
Fencers Anonymous.
Fencers Anonymous.
My name's Kirby and I prance around like a tit.
Fencers. We're to the point. Sorry.
Nicely done.
That's nice. The cutting edge of support groups. Anyway, puns aside.
Touche.
And the French say,
yes!
touchy!
That's it. You can't go.
That was fantastic. Well, seeing as we're going in reverse order, we'll go with Laura next.
That means I'm last.
Okay, so we're all familiar with the image of Vikings drinking from animal horns, etc., and then being quite large ones because they'd come from bison, etc. Good.
Manly drinking horns.
Exactly.
Arr.
But it was actually a test of how hardy a man or woman they were. As, I don't know if you noticed, but there's no way to physically put a horn down once you filled it and started drinking from it. And you wouldn't be able to just waste it, as it were. So it'd be a case of you had to finish your entire drink before you could stop, and soon after would be refilled again, which is quite why they were quite so drunk, quite so fast, because if you've got to keep drinking, keep drinking, keep drinking.
That's pretty cool. Is that where the term wasted comes from? So you are so drunk that you can't hold your horn?
To be honest,
I don't know.
I've never been
I like the idea of that.
If not-
I can usually always hold my horn.
You know the expression in with the thrall of it? Have you heard that?
No.
Enthralled,
Oh,
Yeah.
enthralled
enthralled,
something.
etc.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, in basic servitude to something.
Mhm.
That is because a thrall was exactly the servant slash slave of the Viking era. They were practically property, and it was a massive insult, and that called someone a thrall that wasn't, because it would be a case of taking away all dignity and etc. from that man's personages.
So
So
the
that's-
Viking version of stepping to somebody.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
yeah. There you go. Many
Hold
facts
my
all at
horn.
once.
Cool.
Dost thou call me a fool, sir?
I do it.
Do it. Good effort, Phil. Never mind.
Do you mean
Well,
does?
I turned up. I mean,
I do, sir, would have been more appropriate.
okay. I do, sir.
Do you, sir?
I do, sir.
Sir, do you?
I doth.
I bite my throat.
My hat to you. And also, fuck you.
That's doff.
You can doff whatever hat you want, mate, but
You've got Cockney Shakespearean. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Yeah, again.
the sweat beadeth on my brow.
Ah, there we go. Now he starts doing it.
Didn't they have waist things for the horns though? That's the other thing, because I'm fairly sure they had waist like holsters.
That's where the term wasted comes from. It's not. I'm lying.
I'm
No,
almost certain
just say
it's
it
not.
with some gumption. Come
I
on.
think although it might
Make the
sit
fact your own.
within there, I don't think it would necessarily be sturdy enough to hold it there whilst, say, walking across a room, etc., or sat down. It's not going to have a...
No, each man's going to have their horn, and they're just going to have it mounted on their
Holster.
belt.
Because
Horn
if
holster.
I'm just borrowing the can, which is empty,
That's kind of
you've got that, and then you go sit down, you're still going to spill it everywhere, basically.
Okay, so my fact for round 5 for the free-for-all, I actually just want to have a brief look at the weapons that Vikings used.
Yes.
Okay, we're all familiar with Vikings, very angry, very fighty, but more farmery than you realised before,
Yes,
Yeah.
very true.
referencing previous fact. So quick look at the way they actually fought. Okay, so brief look at their weapons. Fighting technique among the Vikings mainly looked towards a shield in one hand and a weapon in the other. Their main famous weapons used were axes, as you will commonly see them many times. They started off just as tools, being primarily farmers.
So
Pretty
from
harsh.
wood cutting.
No, not tools.
Vikings were alright.
I don't know. Have you ever met one?
They developed the verb Viking.
Wow. Learned so much this evening. Which, I would say, started off as the tool, the axe.
Mm-hmm.
So they started off as tools, and they shortly went on to large double-handed axes. However, they never ever had two blades on them. That was a myth. They didn't do
No.
that at all.
Do you mean like one forward and one backward?
Yeah, the double-headed
Yeah,
axes.
double-headed
They
axe.
never bothered with
They
that.
just had big executioner style.
Yeah,
battle
just
axes.
single-edged. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, you've added a shitload of weight to the end of your shaft.
And it's
For-
pointing towards
For a
you.
backward swing that
it's
is going to have half
messy.
of the
But
force of the front swing.
also from a point of view of using them as a tool, you'd want a flat, heavy side as well as a sharp cut side.
Yeah. So
Also-
all the weight would be on one side to cut wood more efficiently.
Additionally, using it, you could then potentially hammer the rear end
Mhm, yeah.
as hard as you wanted to sort of split the log.
Could you?
You could.
With your tool?
Please stop. Please.
You
please.
could. Okay. Next up, swords. Vikings use swords, as you commonly see in a lot of media. However, swords were mainly were actually quite rare due to the cost involved in making them. There's a lot of metal involved there. So it was more of a status symbol than an actual fighting weapon. And because they were so well made, that's why we find a lot of them these days versus axes and stuff like that. So yeah, so they were mainly status symbols. However, it was common. A lot of them have been found because they were buried with their dead. So anyone important would generally be buried with a sword. They've also found a lot of swords which have been killed, where the blade has been broken because they've been dishonoured. Spears were the most common weapons found in the Viking armoury.
But they were
spears being like the most popular common thing, like spears being amazing. Kirby
Spears being for commoners. Mate.
Spears were essentially the iPhone of the Viking generation. Everyone had.
Well, I'd say they're more the Samsung, if anything, because they're more kind of layman and. Whereas an iPhone is more of an elitist symbol.
No, I think you're wrong there.
And it can be far more effective in many, many ways.
No, I think.
Kirby, I'm just going to take my sense of humour out back and shoot it with a double-barrel shotgun.
Take mine as well.
Actually, it was the Samson of the Viking age.
No.
What do you want from me?
No, we're referencing a past argument.
They are. In fact, if they're going to start on another hour and a half rant
We're doing
spear
rapier versus
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
However, I mean, that said, spears are awesome. Cheap and effective. They had two main types, throwing spears and combat spears. Heavier ones, which are up to about 3 metres long with 60-centimetre heads later in the period. Also heavily important due to the spear being Odin's weapon of choice. And most battles would start off with a spear being thrown over the heads of the enemy, which they would then claim for Odin.
I actually knew that. That's a great fact. I love that one.
Skirmishes. I believe they were called.
Okay, and with those very interesting facts about swords,
And spears and axes.
Sorry, with those very interesting facts about weapons, that was Phil, I believe, unless you had anything else to add.
No, I'm complete.
And for our final round, are we going to go with Phil's Viking weapons, Laura's Viking horns, or Max Viking justice?
Who's going first?
I'm going to go with Viking weapons, specifically spears, though.
Oh, spears are good.
Sorry, that's been disallowed. Max, who are you going with?
Biased there.
I'm going to go with Laura.
Laura's horns.
Critical voting.
Laura's horny Vikings. There's a common
And
theme
Phil.
with my voting.
Phil, who are you going to go with?
Do you know what? As good as my argument was,
Go on.
I'm not going to go for it. I'm going to go for Max.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I
fantastic.
like that. I liked that. That was good.
Cool. I'm also going to go with Viking justice because justice is awesome.
Yay.
Cool. And so the winner of that round is Max.
Yay! I won a round. I'm happy.
You've won 2 rounds, haven't you?
Have I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you won the 3rd round as well.
Get out.
It's nice that you're paying attention.
I am. Do you know what? I'm learning so much from other people's facts. I genuinely am learning a huge amount doing this.
Fantastic.
I'm
I'm glad to hear
I'm
that.
not focusing. I'm not keeping score.
As am I.
Because, as far as I'm concerned, if everybody
Don't
learns,
Don't say it.
everyone's not a loser.
Oh, that's...
We're just all geeks, perverts, and weirdos.
We are geeks, perverts, and weirdos.
With that final score, we have Phil and Max as the winners. Unless
I thought
either
that.
of you has a particularly interesting fact that you'd like to bring out to break the tie.
I want to throw out there the obvious one, the elephant in the room that none of us have truly discussed.
Shit, I forgot you had this fact.
That in fact, Viking helmets did not have horns on. It is one of the greatest misconceptions about Vikings ever, but they did not. Out of all the artefacts found throughout the ages from the Viking period, only one intact helmet has ever been found, and I think it's 3 other pieces, but there are no parts at all which show them having horns on.
I don't stand a hope in fucking hell of winning this
Try
one,
it,
guy.
mate.
The Vikings developed the first iteration of the transit van. Vikings were famed for their shipbuilding. In fact, if you Google Viking achievements, 99% of what you're going to find is shipbuilding. Vikings were master shipbuilders. They had a low-profile keels so that they could skim quicker across the waves. However, they were more prone to capsizing. They could switch instantly from sail to manpower, i.e. not that kind of manpower, is it? Manpower oaring. Rowing.
Or watting.
I'm flapping. But they had a type of boat that had a cover for goods, and it was much bigger than the others, and they put goods in it, and it went, but it didn't go very quickly. So it was essentially a Viking transit van.
So Kirby, who wins from the bonus fact?
Laura, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go with the elephant in the room because you kind of have to.
It's got to be covered.
Kind of have to. We did very well not to talk about it all the way through, and when it comes down to a tiebreaker,
I just had to push it in.
I have to say, I was deeply impressed with Max's facts, though, about the master shipbuilding. So the winner for our final round is Max, but the winner for the overall show with that final fact is Phil. Thanks to all of you who joined us for our latest episode of A Matter of Fact. It's with great pleasure that I say thank you to Max Wilkins.
You're very welcome, Kirby, anytime.
Phil Jordan.
Booyakasha.
And Laura Stevens.
Thank you.
For joining me. I've been Kirby Rawstorn. Goodbye.